"I'm here for the inheritance," she said. The CEO mocked her until the truth was proven. "Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to the main character. She stands at the entrance of a glass-walled boardroom on the 42nd floor, the city spread out beneath her like a grid of power and money. The room smells faintly of polished wood and fresh coffee. Men in tailored suits sit along a long table, tablets glowing, voices low and confident. At the head of the table is the billionaire CEO, calm, composed, and unmistakably in control. She clears her throat. "I am here to claim my inheritance." The sentence lands softly, almost politely. Then the room reacts. A few heads turn. Someone exhales through their nose. The billionaire CEO does not even look up at first. When he does, his expression is not anger. It is amusement. A slow, practiced smile curves at the corner of his mouth, the kind reserved for interns who misunderstand their place. "Inheritance," he repeats, leaning back in his chair. "Do you know where you are?" A ripple of laughter moves down the table. Not loud, not cruel, just confident, certain. She does not raise her voice. She does not step back either. She keeps both hands on the thin folder she is holding, the edges worn, the corners softened by time. Her clothes are simple, clean, but clearly not chosen for rooms like this. Still, her eyes stay locked on him. "Yes," she says, "I know exactly where I am." The CEO gestures lightly to the empty chair near the wall, where security usually waits. "You should not be," he says. "This meeting is for shareholders." "I am aware," she replies. That makes him laugh, this time openly. The board members exchange looks. One of them whispers something to the company lawyer. Another checks the time. They have schedules, numbers to approve, empires to run. This interruption feels almost charming. "Let us be clear," the CEO says, folding his hands. "No one walks in off the street and claims an inheritance from my company." "I am not claiming the company," she answers. "I am claiming what was left to me." The room quiets, just slightly. The CEO tilts his head. "And who exactly left you anything?" She hesitates for half a second. Not because she is unsure, but because the name carries weight. Because saying it out loud changes things. The silence stretches. Outside the windows, traffic moves. Inside, power waits. She finally speaks. The name is enough to make one board member stiffen, enough to make the lawyers stop scrolling. The CEO, however, only smiles wider. "That is impossible," he says. "If that were true, the board would know. My lawyers would know. I would know." She nods once, calm, controlled. "That is why I am here." A pause. The CEO leans forward now, curiosity replacing amusement. "Do you have proof?" She lifts the folder, just an inch, not offering it yet, not surrendering control. "I do," she says, "and it is the reason your board meeting is about to change." No one laughs this time. And that is when the CEO realizes something is different. He does not know her. He does not recognize her face. But she is not bluffing. Bluffers talk more. Bluffers rush. She does neither. He gestures to the lawyer. "Verify it," he says, already confident in the outcome. She takes a slow breath as the folder is finally opened. Because if she is wrong, she will be escorted out and erased. And if she is right, everything in this room belongs to the truth she is about to prove. She does not remember the first time she learned that silence could cost you everything. What she remembers is the letter. It arrived 2 nights earlier, folded once, sealed cleanly, no return address. Not an email, not a call. A letter, the kind people only send when they want proof that something was real, that it existed. She had been sitting at the small kitchen table in her apartment, the hum of the refrigerator louder than the city outside. Rent was 3 days late. The landlord had stopped knocking and started leaving notes instead. Her phone sat face down beside a cold cup of coffee, unanswered messages stacked like quiet warnings. When she opened the envelope, her hands did not shake. Not yet. Inside was a single page and a business card. The page was formal, precise, legal language stripped of emotion. You are hereby notified that your presence may be required to assert a claim related to the estate. She read the line twice, then a third time. Estate, not job offer, not settlement. Estate. The name printed beneath it made the room feel suddenly smaller. He was a man the city spoke about in numbers, a man whose company buildings cast long shadows at sunset, a man whose face appeared in financial magazines she never bought, whose success felt permanent, untouchable. She had known him only briefly, quietly, in a way that had never belonged to headlines. Her first instinct was to laugh. Her second was to throw the letter away. People like her did not have estates waiting for them. She had spent years learning how to stay invisible, how to work extra shifts without complaint, how to keep personal history out of conversations that could cost her opportunities. She had learned that names mattered, that paper mattered, that truth without proof meant nothing. The business card belonged to a law firm she recognized instantly, not because she had ever worked with lawyers, but because their name appeared whenever power was involved. Mergers, acquisitions, wills that decided futures. She did not call that night. She sat there instead, listening to the city breathe through the window, replaying a memory she had buried on purpose. A signature, a promise spoken softly, away from witnesses, words that had sounded temporary at the time. Necessary, practical, not romantic. She had not asked for anything then. She had not needed to. The agreement had been clear. It had not been about love. It had been about protection, about making sure something stayed safe when the world had started closing in. She folded the letter carefully and placed it back inside the envelope. The next morning, she went to work as usual. She smiled at people who did not know her name. She answered emails that led nowhere. She counted hours because hours still mattered, even when everything else felt unreal. At lunch, she sat alone on a bench outside, the wind sharp against her face, and finally dialed the number on the card. The lawyer did not sound surprised. "Yes," he said after she spoke her name. "We were wondering when you would call." That was when the weight of it settled in her chest. Not excitement, not hope, responsibility. He explained very little over the phone. Only that certain clauses required her physical presence, that timing mattered, that others would not be pleased. When she hung up, she stared at her reflection in the dark screen of her phone. She looked the same as she had the day before. Tired, ordinary, easy to dismiss. By the time she reached the glass building 2 days later, she had already decided something. She was not there to beg. She was not there to threaten. She was there because the truth had been written down, signed, and hidden where no one expected it to surface. And if the boardroom laughed, if the billionaire CEO dismissed her, if the city tried to swallow her whole, then so be it. Because walking away had cost her enough already. This time, she was staying. The lawyer's office was quieter than she expected. No view of the city, no dramatic artwork, just clean walls, muted light, and a long table that had seen too many signatures decide too many lives. The man across from her did not rush. He did not smile either. He read the documents as if he had already memorized them, turning each page with careful precision. "This clause," he said finally, tapping the paper once, "is the reason you are standing in that boardroom today." She leaned forward, eyes fixed on the line he indicated. The clause was short, only a few sentences, but every word carried weight. It stated that in the event of death, a sealed agreement would supersede all prior distributions, that the beneficiary named would remain confidential until she chose to appear in person, that no notice would be given to the board until that moment. She had signed it years ago, so had he. At the time, it had felt unreal, a temporary solution to a situation neither of them could afford to explain publicly. He had been rising fast then, the company expanding, investors watching every move. A single complication could have unraveled everything he was building. "You will never have to use this," he had said back then, voice low, almost apologetic. "But if something happens, you will not be left with nothing." She had believed him, not because of promises, but because he had put it in writing. The lawyer closed the folder and folded his hands. The agreement was notarized, witnessed, and legally binding. It was stored off-site, as requested. "Requested by him," she said. "Yes," the lawyer replied, "very specifically." She swallowed. That was the part no one else knew. Not the board, not the shareholders, not even the people who believed they controlled everything. "This does not make you popular," the lawyer continued. The board will resist. The chief executive officer will assume this is a mistake, or a scam. I am aware, she said. He studied her for a moment. Most people would have sold this information quietly, taken a settlement, walked away. She met his gaze. I am not most people. The lawyer nodded once, approval or perhaps respect. He slid a second document across the table. This confirms your right to be present. It does not explain why. That part happens when the board is forced to listen. She took the paper. It felt heavier than it should have. When she left the office, the city felt louder, sharper. The glass towers looked less impressive now that she knew what was hidden behind one of them. By the time she reached her apartment, night had fallen. She did not turn on the lights right away. She stood by the window instead, watching headlights move like veins through the streets below. She thought about the last conversation she had ever had with him. How unfinished it had felt. How quickly life had moved on afterward, erasing the space he had once occupied. She opened the old folder again, the one she had carried into the boardroom. Inside were copies. Originals stayed locked away, where no one could tamper with them. She had learned that lesson early. At the very bottom was the signature page. His name, her name, side by side. Not romantic, not dramatic, just deliberate. The next morning, she dressed carefully. Not to impress, but to remain unremarkable. People underestimated what they did not notice. She had survived by knowing that. In the elevator ride up to the 42nd floor, her reflection stared back at her. Calm, still, unapologetic. When the doors opened, she stepped into the hallway outside the boardroom. Voices drifted through the glass. Laughter, confidence. Men who believed the rules only applied to others. She tightened her grip on the folder. She was not there to expose a secret out of anger. She was there because silence had been written into the agreement, and so had her right to break it. And once the truth entered that room, nothing would return to the way it was before. The boardroom doors closed softly behind her, but the sound feels louder than it should. Every seat at the table is filled now. The meeting has resumed its rhythm, charts on screens, numbers spoken with confidence. For a moment, it is as if she is not there at all. Then the billionaire CEO clears his throat. Before we continue, he says, gesturing vaguely in her direction, we have an unexpected interruption to address. All eyes turn to her. She remains standing, not because she has been told to, but because sitting would feel like surrender. The folder rests against her side, held firmly, deliberately visible. The CEO offers a polite smile, the kind that signals control, not kindness. You have claimed an inheritance, he says, from this estate, from me. He pauses, letting the absurdity hang in the air. I would like to understand how you believe that is possible. A few board members exchange glances. One man near the end of the table leans back, arms crossed, curiosity mixed with skepticism. The company lawyer sits very still, watching her instead of the CEO. She speaks calmly. I am not here to convince anyone. I am here because the agreement requires me to appear in person. The CEO lets out a short laugh. Agreement, he repeats. There is no agreement that includes you. He looks down the table. Is there? No one answers. A few shake their heads. That settles it, he says, turning back to her. You are mistaken. She does not react. I have been mistaken before, she says. This is not one of those times. That draws a sharper response. The CEO's smile fades just slightly. You should be careful, he says. This company does not take kindly to disruptions, especially not during board meetings. The implication is clear. She nods once. I understand. Silence stretches. The city hums faintly through the glass walls. One of the board members finally speaks. If you have documentation, this can be handled privately. The CEO raises a hand. There is nothing to handle. He looks at her again, assessing her more closely now. Her clothes, her posture, the absence of fear where he expects it. Let us be honest, he says. People do not simply appear and claim what does not belong to them. If this is about money, there are easier ways. A ripple of quiet agreement moves around the table. She meets his gaze. This is not about money. That earns another laugh, sharper than the first. Everything is about money, the CEO replies. Especially here. He gestures toward the door. I suggest you leave before this becomes unpleasant. She takes a slow breath. Her heart is steady. Her voice remains level. "I am not leaving." The room stills. The CEO's expression hardens. "You are not in a position to make demands." "I am not making demands," she says. "I am invoking a clause." The lawyer looks up now. "Which clause?" the CEO asks, irritation creeping into his voice. She finally lifts the folder, just enough to show that it is not empty. "The one that prevents removal until verification is complete," she answers. That lands differently. The CEO turns to the lawyer. "Is that true?" The lawyer hesitates, just a fraction of a second, but everyone notices. "There are circumstances," the lawyer says carefully, "under which verification is required before dismissal." The CEO straightens in his chair. "Verify it then," he says, "so we can move on." He looks back at her, confidence fully restored. This will not take long. She steps forward and places the folder on the table, not in front of him, in front of the lawyer. The sound of paper sliding against polished wood echoes in the quiet room. For the first time since she entered, no one laughs, because humiliation, she knows, is never the end of the story. It is only the part before the truth speaks. The lawyer opens the folder slowly, not with surprise, not with disbelief, with caution. Inside, the papers are arranged neatly, as if someone had prepared them knowing this exact moment would come. He scans the first page, then the second. His expression does not change, but the room does. The billionaire CEO watches from the head of the table, relaxed, arms resting comfortably on the chair. He has already decided how this ends. Another misunderstanding, another interruption resolved. "Is this necessary?" he asks lightly. "We have a full agenda." The lawyer does not answer right away. He flips to a page marked with a small red tab. His brow tightens. He removes his glasses and reads again, more carefully this time. A board member clears his throat. "What is it?" The lawyer finally looks up. "I need to confirm something." The CEO exhales, amused. "By all means." The lawyer turns to her. "May I ask how you obtained these copies?" She keeps her voice steady. "They were provided to me when the agreement was executed. Originals are stored separately, as specified." The lawyer nods slowly. "As specified," he repeats. That phrase draws the CEO's attention. "What exactly are you verifying?" he asks, the edge in his voice just beginning to show. The lawyer points to a paragraph halfway down the page. This clause. He reads it aloud, word by word, careful not to rush. "In the event of death, any prior distributions, trusts, or board-controlled decisions are to be suspended until the named beneficiary appears in person to assert her claim." Silence settles over the table. The CEO shifts in his seat. "That clause does not exist," he says flatly. The lawyer meets his eyes. "It does." A murmur moves through the room. One board member leans forward. Another straightens the papers in front of him, suddenly unable to focus on numbers. The lawyer continues. "It further states that removal of the beneficiary from any official proceeding is prohibited until verification is complete." The CEO laughs, but the sound lacks confidence now. "You are suggesting that this woman," he gestures toward her without looking, "has the authority to halt a board meeting?" "I am stating what the document says," the lawyer replies. The CEO turns sharply to her. "You planned this." She shakes her head. "No, he did." The name remains unspoken, but everyone knows who she means. The lawyer flips to the final pages. Signatures are present, notarized, witnessed, filed off-site. He pauses, then adds quietly, "At his request." The CEO's jaw tightens. "This is ridiculous," one board member says. "Why would we not know about this?" "Because confidentiality was part of the agreement," the lawyer answers. "Full confidentiality." The room grows heavy with realization. The CEO leans back, studying her again, but this time without laughter. "You could have come to me privately," he says. "I did not have that option," she replies. Neither did he. The lawyer closes the folder halfway. At this point, verification is required. "How long?" the CEO asks. "That depends," the lawyer says carefully, "on whether you wish to contest the validity or proceed." The CEO looks around the table. Faces that once reflected certainty now show hesitation, calculation, doubt. For the first time, he realizes he is no longer in control of the room. She stands quietly as the power shifts, not triumph in her eyes, but resolve. This was not a performance. This was a door he had never known existed, now opening in front of everyone. And once opened, it could not be closed again. The lawyer steps away from the table, not dramatically, not to make a point, just far enough to address the room instead of one man. Verification has been completed, he says. The words do not land all at once. They move slowly, like a wave reaching the shore. The billionaire CEO straightens. Completed? He repeats. You have not contacted the registry. You have not reviewed the off-site archive. The lawyer nods. We have. A pause. I requested confirmation the moment this clause was identified, the lawyer continues. The notarized originals were retrieved digitally and cross-checked with the off-site vault records. Everything matches. The room stills. One of the board members exhales sharply. Another grips the edge of the table, knuckles whitening. The screens at the far end of the room still display financial projections, frozen mid-slide, irrelevant now. The lawyer turns slightly, angling the open folder so the table can see. The agreement is valid, he says. The signatures are authentic. The witnesses are verified. The beneficiary is correctly identified. He looks at her then, directly. She is who the document says she is. The CEO stands. The movement is abrupt enough to draw every eye back to him. That is not possible, he says. His voice is firm, but something beneath it has shifted. If this were real, I would have been informed. The lawyer shakes his head. The agreement explicitly prevented that. That makes no sense. It makes legal sense, the lawyer replies, and it was intentional. The CEO turns to the board. You are telling me that a private agreement I have never seen overrides years of corporate governance? Yes, the lawyer answers, in this specific circumstance. A murmur breaks out, no longer restrained. She has rights? Someone asks. What rights? Another demands. The lawyer raises his hand. At this stage, the beneficiary is entitled to acknowledgement, presence, and disclosure. Disclosure of what? The CEO snaps. The lawyer does not hesitate. Of the estate provisions that pertain to her. The CEO looks back at her, not with anger now, with disbelief. You planned this, he says quietly. She meets his gaze. No, I honored it. That agreement was never meant to be used, he says. Then it should not have been written, she replies. Silence returns, heavier than before. The lawyer speaks again. For the record, the board is now formally notified of the beneficiary's status. Any attempt to remove her from this proceeding would constitute a violation of the agreement. The CEO runs a hand along his jaw, thinking, calculating. The man who has always known the next move now finds the board unfamiliar. What exactly are you claiming? He asks her. She takes a breath. This is the moment she had prepared for. Not the laughter, not the doubt. This. I am claiming what was left to me, she says. No more, no less. And that is, he presses. The lawyer answers before she can. A protected interest tied to the estate. The specifics are outlined in the final section. He flips the page. Several board members lean forward now. No one hides it. The lawyer reads, the beneficiary is entitled to recognition and the authority to review any actions taken that conflict with the intent of the agreement. The CEO lets out a slow breath. Authority, he repeats. The lawyer nods. Yes. The CEO looks around the table. Faces he once commanded now wait. Not for him, for the truth. She remains standing, hands relaxed at her sides, heart steady. This is the reveal. Not fireworks, not applause, just a room full of powerful people realizing they were never told the whole story. And there is no undoing that, because once the truth is proven, it does not ask permission to stay. The room does not erupt, it tightens. The board members speak in lower voices now, words clipped, cautious. Power has shifted, and everyone can feel it, even if no one wants to name it yet. The billionaire CEO remains standing, hands resting on the back of his chair. He looks at her again, but this time there is no dismissal in his eyes. There is something closer to threat, wrapped carefully in restraint. You understand what you are doing, he says. You are putting this company in an impossible position. She does not look away. I am not the one who wrote the agreement. That does not answer my question. She considers him for a moment, then she speaks plainly. I understand exactly what I am doing. One of the board members interjects. This meeting was not meant to become a courtroom. No, she says quietly. It became one because it had to. The CEO exhales through his nose. You could have taken a settlement, quietly, no spectacle. She shakes her head. That would have erased the truth. The truth, he repeats, or your version of it. Her voice does not rise. The version that was signed, witnessed, and hidden. That lands harder than anything else she has said. The lawyer clears his throat. At this stage, any attempt to negotiate outside the agreement would be inappropriate. The CEO turns sharply. You are siding with her now? I am upholding the law, the lawyer replies. That is my role. Silence presses in again. The CEO finally sits down, slowly, as if reclaiming control through stillness. You are asking for authority, he says to her. That has consequences. I am asking for acknowledgement, she answers. Authority was already granted. A board member near the middle of the table leans forward. What do you intend to do with this authority? All eyes return to her. This is the question they have been waiting to ask, the one that determines whether she is a threat or an inconvenience. She takes a breath. I intend to review the decisions that were made after the agreement was executed. The CEO's jaw tightens. You are accusing us of wrongdoing. I am asking for transparency. Another board member scoffs. You expect us to open years of decisions to someone we have never met? She meets his gaze. You never met me because you were not meant to. The words hang in the air. The CEO leans forward now. You think this makes you powerful, he says. It does not. It makes you exposed. Her expression softens, just slightly. Not from fear, from understanding. I have been exposed my entire life, she says. This is not new. The CEO studies her, as if seeing her clearly for the first time. Why now? He asks. Why not stay silent like everyone else? She answers without hesitation. Because silence was never part of the agreement. The lawyer nods faintly. The CEO looks away, toward the windows, toward the city he thought he controlled. You are forcing our hand. She nods. I know. And if the board votes against you? They cannot, the lawyer says calmly. Not at this stage. The realization settles in. For the first time, the CEO understands the full weight of what has happened. This is not a challenge he can outmaneuver with influence or money. It is a promise he never expected to be enforced. He looks back at her. What do you want from me? She pauses, not because she is unsure, but because this answer matters. I want the truth, she says, and I want it acknowledged, publicly. The board falls silent, because this is the moment when fake arrangements end and real consequences begin. The meeting does not end, it fractures. The billionaire CEO calls for a short recess, but no one truly leaves. Board members stand in small clusters, voices low, eyes constantly returning to her as if she might disappear if they look away for too long. Phones vibrate with muted messages. Assistants hover near the door, uncertain who they are taking orders from now. She remains seated at the far end of the table, hands folded, posture steady. This is the quiet she prepared for. Not applause, not victory. The pause where decisions are forced into the open. The CEO returns first. He does not sit at the head of the table this time. He takes the chair beside it instead. A small shift, but everyone notices. I want to speak with you privately, he says. She does not answer immediately. She looks to the lawyer, who gives a subtle nod. For 10 minutes, she says, with counsel present. The CEO hesitates, then agrees. They move into a smaller conference room, glass walls offering no privacy, only separation. The city feels farther away here, muted, distant. You have no idea what you have stepped into, the CEO says as soon as the door closes. I do, she replies. I stepped into something that was already written. He runs a hand through his hair, frustration breaking through his control. You could destroy years of work. I am not here to destroy anything, she says. I am here to decide what happens next. He looks at her sharply. Decide? She meets his gaze. That is what authority means. Silence stretches between them. The lawyer clears his throat. She has the right to review and approve any resolution that contradicts the agreement. The CEO exhales slowly. You want leverage. No, she says. I want accountability. He laughs once, bitterly. You sound like this is personal. It is, she replies, but not in the way you think. He studies her, searching for anger, for greed, for something he can negotiate against. He finds none. What happens if you walk away right now? He asks. Take a settlement. Leave this behind. She considers the question carefully. Then nothing changes, she says, and everything that was hidden stays hidden. And if you stay? Then the truth becomes part of the record. The CEO leans back, eyes narrowing. You are asking me to expose my own company. I am asking you to honor an agreement, she says. One you did not write, but one you inherited. That lands harder than accusation. The lawyer slides a document across the table. This outlines the immediate options. The CEO scans it quickly, jaw tightening. You are giving her a choice. Yes, the lawyer says. That was the intent. The CEO looks up. So now you choose, he says to her. What do you want? This is the moment the room has been building toward. The one where she could claim power, demand positions, take control. She does none of that. I want a full review, she says. Independent, transparent. And I want the board to acknowledge my role publicly. The CEO stares at her. No shares, no title. Not yet, she replies. And after that? She stands. After that, I will decide whether this agreement ends as a contract. He frowns. Or becomes something real. The words hang between them, heavier than any legal clause. Outside the glass walls, the board waits. Because this is the point where fake arrangements either collapse under pressure or transform into something no one planned for. And the choice, for the first time, is hers. The boardroom looks different a week later. Not because the table has changed, or the city outside the windows has softened, but because the people inside it sit differently now. Papers are stacked instead of scattered. Voices are quieter, careful. She stands at the same place she stood before, but this time, no one questions why she is there. The lawyer clears his throat. The independent review has concluded. No one interrupts him. All actions taken after the execution of the agreement have been examined, he continues. No criminal violations were found. However, material decisions were made without full disclosure of the agreement's existence. A murmur moves through the room. Not shock, acceptance. The board acknowledges the beneficiary's role, the lawyer says, formally, on record. The billionaire CEO nods once, not because he wants to, but because this is no longer about what he wants. He looks at her. It is done. She does not smile. She does not celebrate. She simply exhales, a breath she has been holding for years without realizing it. I am not here to take something from you, she says to the room. I am here to close something that was left unfinished. The CEO studies her carefully now, without hostility, without defensiveness. You could have taken more, he says. You chose not to. She meets his gaze, because this was never about winning. A board member near the end of the table speaks up. Then what happens now? The lawyer answers first. The agreement has been fulfilled. She nods. Yes, it has. The CEO straightens in his chair. And you? He asks her. What do you do next? She pauses, not for effect, but because this is the first time the future is not being dictated to her. I walk away, she says, with the truth acknowledged. The CEO frowns slightly. That is it? That is everything, she replies. Silence settles, but this time it is not tense. It is complete. As the meeting adjourns, people gather their things slowly. Some avoid her eyes. Others nod respectfully. No one laughs. The CEO remains seated as she turns to leave. Wait, he says. She stops. I spent years believing control was the same as certainty, he says quietly. I was wrong. She looks at him. Control is what you keep. Truth is what remains. He stands, extending his hand. Not as a billionaire, not as a man in power, as someone acknowledging something real. She shakes it. Outside, the air feels lighter. The city moves on as it always has, unaware of what just shifted inside one glass tower. But for her, something has ended, and something else, unexpected, has begun. The agreement that once existed only on paper is gone now. What remains is not a contract, not an obligation, but a shared understanding forged in the only place that matters, in the open. She steps into the elevator, the doors closing softly behind her. This time, she does not look at her reflection. She already knows who she is. And for the first time, the world knows it too.